quadratic equation 4x squared plus 16x plus 9 is equal to 0. And it goes on to say, state two methods that can be used to solve this quadratic equation. And the next part of the question says, using one of the method, solve the equation. Well, clearly we see this number is 4, this number is 16, and this number is 9. So you could not ever find any factors that can go into these three numbers. So you have to leave the equation like that, right? So remember, quadratic equation is written in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So clearly I can see that a is equal to 4, b is equal to 16, and c is equal to 9, all right? By using the coefficients of the quadratic equation. Now we can then use the quadratic formula, which states that x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2a. Now if you're not comfortable memorizing this formula, they most likely will give it to you in a reference sheet in the Regents exam, alright? So this is the equation used to solve it using the quadratic formula. So clearly we'll substitute the letters now. So we'll substitute this. So x is equal to negative b, which is negative 16 plus or minus the square root of negative 16 squared minus 4 times the value of a, which is 4, times the value of c, which is 9, all divided by 2 times the value of 4, right? So I will erase the top here now. I will take my calculator and I will try to work this out. So x will be equal to negative 16 plus or minus, I will do 16 squared. So 16 squared, which is equal to 256, and I will do 4 times 9. So that's 16 times 9, and I will subtract that from 256. So I'm going to get the square root of 112. 112, all divided by 2 times 4, which is 8. So now I will get x is equal to negative 16 plus or minus the square root of 112, which will be 112 will be 10.58. So this number will be 10.58, and don't forget we have to divide by the 8, okay? So now I'm using the quadratic formula to find what are the two solutions. So one of the solutions will be x1, you'll use the value, the positive value, and the other solution will be x2 when you're using the negative value. So let's use the positive value first. I'm going to use negative 16 plus 10.58. That would give me 5.42 negative divided by 8. So my first solution is negative 0.67. Negative 0.67. And I use 2 decimal points. The next solution is when I use negative 10.58. So that will give me negative 3.32. Now clearly, both of the solutions of the quadratic equation will be irrational numbers. So these two values actually represent where it touches the x-axis. So when you're asked to sketch the graph of this quadratic equation, this function, the graph will intercept the x-axis at negative 0.67 as well as negative 3.32. And they're not imaginary roots, they're actually real roots, but they are not rational, they're irrational, right? So my two solutions are x equal negative 0.67 and x equal negative 3.32. These two numbers actually mean, what is the meaning of it? These are the two values that when you put it into the original equation, the function will be equal to 0. Right? Now let's look back at the original equation. The original quadratic equation was 4x squared plus 16x plus 9 equals 0. When you substitute these two numbers into this original equation, the answer has to be equal to 0. Now clearly, this equation could not be factorized. How do you know it cannot be factorized? Because whenever you factorize a quadratic equation, the numbers will have to be actual whole numbers, integer values, all right? Now, there's another method you can use to solve this quadratic equation, and that is called completing the square. So on my next video, I will show you a solution, a representation of how to solve this quadratic equation using completing the square method. That's all for this video. See you guys later. Hope you apply this method, solve your quadratic equations, and get an A+. Peace out.